Professor Adam Hart speaks up for hunting tourism. He's one of the few academics brave enough to support regulated trophy hunting. Science says it works for wildlife, but the professor's support for it draws abuse from anti-hunting academics.
I think if I was a bit younger and things were different, I was earlier in my career and stuff, it would probably affect me. I know for a fact that a number of academics won't speak out on social media because they don't want to get involved with that. And you know what, I respect that, but I'm quite happy to get involved with this. I've been looking at this for the last decade or so. I've been essentially an applied ecologist working in southern Africa and looking at ecological situations, which include, of course, hunting. I've been looking at hunting for the last 5 or 6 years in some depth, actually the last 7 years, I think.
Big game hunters also face discrimination from a billboard campaign outside Parliament.
So it doesn't surprise me at all. But I don't think it really, it helps for them getting publicity. But does it help for conservation? No, it doesn't. Yes, I do receive some personal abuse, a lot less than others in this debate, I must say. Probably, or I don't see it because I tend to mute a lot of people. That shouldn't stop us as scientists speaking up and defending the evidence behind conservation. And it is a science, and there are, there's plenty of evidence there. And, it's our job as scientists to present that evidence to people. And that's what we continue to do.
Adam Hart travelled to Namibia with filmmakers Ryan Dalton and Oscar Henderson to help them make Beyond the Trigger. The film, now on YouTube, explores the debate about trophy hunting by talking to the people in the country. Ryan was a vegan and admits that exploring the subject of trophy hunting by meeting the communities gave him a whole new perspective.
There's been elements of surprise that have continued to happen even since I've come back, and it's as these conversations have continued. But I think I felt it a lot in the film, was the sheer passion for wildlife. And I kind of feel a bit bad for saying that, because I don't want to feel like I didn't think that people out there didn't have a passion for wildlife. But because it's so normal, I thought maybe it wouldn't be as exciting for people and communities out there. But they're so passionate about their wildlife culturally, from a conservation angle, from a sustainability, from what it means to them as an individual. That kind of stuff surprised me and stuck with me a long time.
Ryan knows that his film may not change the minds of antis, but he hopes it will reach people willing to listen to the facts.
Trophy hunting does kind of come from a colonial past, we can't ignore that. But the communities have that choice now whether to use it or whether to not. And I think that's the big thing. I think that's the part it really does play. And it does play a large part in wildlife conservation. It benefits people and motivates people to want to live with wildlife. They're not easy animals to live around, especially when we're talking about elephants, lions and leopards.
There are different camps here. People that are very much anti-trophy hunting from an ideological viewpoint. They're not anti-trophy hunting, actually. They're anti-hunting. They're anti the use of animals in any way. Those people are never going to come away from a film like this with a sense that perhaps they were wrong. They're ideologically charged in terms of their attitudes towards animals and so on. So I think those people won't be changed. I think people who have read the media, are looking at sort of clickbait headlines about people turning elephants into waste paper baskets and stuff, perhaps haven't really thought it through, but see those images, read what is very often misinformation being presented in the press. I think they will probably watch this if they do watch it, which is always a problem. But I think if they do engage with it, they'll come away with an understanding that perhaps what they've read in 200 words on some clickbait article isn't necessarily the full truth. In some cases, actually, isn't even a partial truth. But they'll come away with it with a more enhanced understanding, hopefully. But people can watch the film and come to whatever conclusion they want. But what they can't do is watch the film and state that communities gain no benefit anywhere in the world, for example, which I've seen said, Ryan went down there and spoke to people who very clearly outlined the benefits that they get and also very clearly outlined some of the problems and some of the issues. It's a very open-handed film, actually. It's really refreshing to see. And I think Ryan and Oscar as well, Oscar Henderson, who put the film together, has done an incredible job at weaving together those stories and sort of producing something that allows people to go on a similar sort of journey that Ryan went on, from not really understanding it at all and thinking it's abhorrent to then realizing it's more complex. And then, not everyone gets the opportunity to go and speak directly to people, but Ryan did. And, it's nice to sort of eavesdrop, if you like, on those conversations.
Professor Hart says people often question his motives for speaking out for trophy hunting and its benefits for conservation and communities that rely on it.
The most common accusation is that somehow me and in fact others in this debate are shills, that we're corrupt, that we're being paid for by some shadowy brown envelopes from Safari Club International and so on. These sorts of accusations are kind of run of the mill now. The first time they drop into your box, you're like, oh, this is what are these people saying? Now it's just like, yeah, whatever. It's categorically not true. I don't receive any funding from these organisations.
Ryan admits some of his friends who are vegans are surprised by his decision to make the film.
I was vegan for a very long time. I was vegan for like 7 or 8 years. I've only just this year started to eat a tiny bit of meat due to health reasons, but it's not once a week I eat a tiny bit of venison. There was surprise. There was people like looking at me going, really? You're doing a film about trophy hunting? And I think actually the funny thing was when people come to see the London premiere that hadn't watched all the posts leading up to it, they thought they were going to be watching a film about trophy hunting, slagging it off. And then when they saw this film talking about, or really just platforming what local people were saying, they were a bit taken back.
As a scientist and a father, Professor Hart is clear why he feels that showing the truth about trophy hunting and its role in protecting species is essential.
I'm interested in this from an academic perspective, and I'm interested in it because I want my children and my grandchildren and my grandchildren's grandchildren to be able to go to places like Southern Africa, and we're always focusing on Africa, but there's many other places in the world, and be able to see wildlife outside of protected areas and national parks and fortress-style conservation, as I've been able to. And at the moment, trophy hunting is a part of that conservation landscape. It's a part of the conservation toolkit. And just because many people don't like it, and I would include me actually in that, I don't like seeing those images any more than many other people, doesn't change the fact that it is still playing, in many cases, a positive part in conservation. And we can't ignore that, and we can't ignore the evidence behind that and stick to our ideological perspectives if by doing that, we are going to cause conservation concerns, conservation harms.
See the link below for the film that Adam and Ryan worked on.